Judge's Corner is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and GatheringMagic.com. Support our show by visiting both websites. Now it's time for Judge's Corner with David Green.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Judge's Corner. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Deathtouch. Deathtouch is a static ability that functions in a way that makes all damage considered lethal damage, as long as it's more than 0 damage, because of course 0 is not actually damage. So what that basically means is, for a Loxodon Smiter, you normally need to deal it 4 damage to take it down, but with Deathtouch, you can deal 1 point of damage to take down the elephant. Next, let's go ahead and examine some of the really interesting rules that surround Deathtouch. For starters, there was a fun period in Standard where you could attack with a Wormcoil engine, which is a 6/6 creature with Deathtouch and lifelink, and pump it up, giving it Trample with Kessig Woofrun. This allowed you to assign 1 damage to each of its blockers, and the rest to the defending player or planeswalker, because you only needed to assign 1 lethal in order to trample over with Deathtouch. Deathtouch isn't limited to just combat. If you got into a fight with the help of Prey Upon or Domri Raid, the Deathtoucher would have a lethal edge, killing the opponent or at least trading with it. And while First Strike has no effect in a fight, in the combat, First Strike and Deathtouch make for a very unfair combination, making it so that you can kill most blockers before they ever get a chance to try and retaliate. Deathtouch also functions on things that aren't creatures. The example that illustrates this is a little out there, but you could play March of the Machines to make your Staff of Nin a 6/6 creature, and then give it Deathtouch with Serpent's Gift. Afterwards, if March of the Machines left play, you could still deal 1 damage to a creature with the Staff's ability to kill that creature with Deathtouch for the rest of the turn. When something with Deathtouch is destroyed after it uses its ability to deal damage to something else, but before that ability resolves, perhaps a Spike Shot Elder equipped with a Basilisk Collar, being murdered before its ability to damage something else happens, the game uses last known information to determine if it had Deathtouch, and in this case it did. Finally, Deathtouch only really checks and destroys things when state-based actions check, since being destroyed for having been dealt Deathtouch damage is its own individual state-based action. However, because of the way that the rules for Deathtouch damage are worded, this check only happens once, right after the Deathtouch damage is dealt. For example, if something was enchanted with Indestructibility and was blocked by a Deadly Recluse, it would survive because it can't be destroyed by lethal damage in any form. If later in the turn the enchantment was removed, the creature would still live as long as its toughness was greater than the combat damage dealt to it earlier. So in this example, anything greater than 1. The reason for this is because state-based actions only check for specifically Deathtouch damage when Deathtouch is dealt. It doesn't look for lingering Deathtouch, only Deathtouch damage that was dealt since the last time state-based actions did their rounds. Oh, and things like Regenerate can also save something from a lethal dose of Deathtouch. Since Deathtouch only makes the amount of damage needed to be lethal 1, it doesn't give creatures any other special powers to kill things more than they once would, or deliver any special blows. If you deal more than 1 point of damage with the Deathtoucher to a creature, you'll still yield the same results as if you dealt 1 damage to that creature. The last thing I want to talk about is that Deathtouch functions in any zone, meaning that if you had something with Deathtouch dealing damage from the exile or while it was on the stack, it would kill something with lethal damage from Deathtouch damage. However, I can't think of any good examples of how you could deal damage with something with Deathtouch in any zone other than the battlefield, so I'm sorry that I can't provide that. If you can think of any good examples, make sure to leave a comment below and let us all know. So that concludes our episode on Deathtouch. If you have any questions, make sure to send me an email at judgescorner@gatheringmagic.com. And until next time, shuffle thoroughly, play at a reasonable pace, and have fun.